The situation in Iraq today was completely predictable. And I've been warning about what was going to happen. First of all, when we just completely abandoned what was going on in Iraq and left that place open to become an ungoverned space again. And then you look at what's happening next door in Syria, and as I've been saying all along, unless moderate rebel elements were the best armed, the best equipped group on the ground, you were going to create a vacuum for these radical groups to come in, attract foreign fighters, grow stronger, and ultimately imperil Iraq and eventually Jordan. And so what's happening there is an offshoot of what's happened in Syria, but it goes even further, and that is, it goes back to the failed foreign policy of this administration with regards to Iraq. And now apparently we're heading in the same direction in Afghanistan. So here's the threat. What does this group want to do? This is perhaps the single most radical group in the Middle East right now, and that's saying a lot. I mean, this group is even more radical than core Al-Qaeda, so just imagine what that means. On top of it, they're now perhaps the richest terrorist group on the ground because they've stolen about $400 million. And they're gaining ground every single day. Their goal is to establish an Islamic Caliphate, an Islamic state. They don't care about existing borders. Their goal is to establish an Islamic state from which they can do two things. First, terrorize America until they drive us out of the Middle East, and then destroy Israel. That's their stated goal. And in the process, we already see evidence that they're implementing and forcing Sharia law on people on the ground. They've done it in Syria. They're doing it now in Iraq. It's an extremely dangerous situation. And if this group is able to hold on to power and create that space, that place will be worse than Afghanistan before 9/11. And from there, they will coordinate, plan, and carry out attacks against the homeland of the United States.
Thank you, everyone. We need to get going.
With more troops longer in Iraq, would that have solved the issue?
I think we should have pressed harder for a base status agreement that allowed us to leave behind a residual force that would not have led to the situation that we now face. And it looks like the president is repeating the same mistake now in Afghanistan. If he carries out his plan, as he said, to completely abandon Afghanistan by 2016, Afghanistan, along with Iraq and already Syria, are going to turn into operational safe havens for terrorists to plan attacks against America. This is not about nation building. This is not about going around trying to make other countries live like us. This is about preventing the emergence of safe havens from which terrorist organizations can plan and operate attacks against the United States. 9/11 would not have been possible unless Al-Qaeda had a safe haven in Afghanistan. And a future 9/11 will be made possible if we allow other safe havens to emerge.
Should we start drone striking these militants in Iraq?
I think that's a very serious consideration that I would explore. Obviously, there are limitations on how much you can do, but I'll say this: we cannot allow another safe haven to emerge. You cannot allow an Islamic Caliphate to emerge as a safe haven for terrorists in what was Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq. You can't allow it, because the next thing they will do is they will use that space to plot and carry out attacks against the homeland of the United States. This is a grave national security threat. This is not about trying to save the Iraqi government. This is not about trying to build a government or a country in Iraq. This is about the preventing of an emergence of a safe haven that will be used to carry out attacks against us here in the United States.
Would that be troops?
I don't think the troops are the best way to do it at this point, and I don't think the Iraqis are asking for that. But I do think we have to have every option at our disposal, and that includes both missile strikes and air strikes against ISIL, against a radical terrorist group that is trying to establish a base of operations from which they can plot attacks against us. And we should take that very seriously. These groups wake up every morning thinking up of ways of how they can blow up American airplanes, bring down American office buildings, and kill Americans here in America so that they can terrorize us, so that we'll abandon the Middle East and that we'll abandon Israel. And if we give them a place to do that from, it's going to happen. It's that simple.